August 1945. The war was over, but for Katrin Müller, it didn't feel that way yet. The truck stank of gasoline and sweat as it rumbled through the Arizona desert, carrying 36 women who had nothing left to lose, not even fear. Katrin pressed her back against the rough wooden slats, watching the dust swirl behind the canvas in ghostly clouds. Shoulders brushed. No one spoke. Liesel, sitting opposite Katrin, whispered without lifting her eyes, "Do you think they'll feed us?" Katrin hesitated, then answered softly, "If they wanted us dead, they wouldn't drive this far." It wasn't comfortable exactly, but it was enough to keep the silence from swallowing them whole. Up front, a young American soldier chewed gum with lazy precision, the desert glare flashing off his sunglasses. His silence somehow more terrifying than any propaganda poster she'd ever seen. For 2 years, the Reich's posters had painted Americans as monsters, fanged, cruel, unstoppable. Now, the truth was quieter, stranger. Fear lingered, but it was human, not mythical. Beside her, a young woman trembled, the chill of the desert night clinging to her thin uniform. Katrin's hand twitched, wanting to offer comfort, but fear kept her still. Ahead, Camp Florence emerged through the heat shimmer, barbed wire, guard towers, and rows of baking barracks, foreign and merciless. The truck jolted to a stop. Camp Florence, they'd said, wasn't meant for women, but the war had scattered its prisoners across the continent. The soldier dropped the tailgate with a clank. "Raus!" he barked in broken German. Katrin's legs, numb from hours of riding, buckled as she stepped down. An MP grabbed her elbow. She flinched and nearly fell. He released her instantly, hands lifted like a frightened horse. They were lined up for photographs, assigned numbers. Katrin became P4829F, the F for female, the only truth in the code. Inside the processing room, the scent of disinfectant and old paper filled the air. An American woman in crisp uniform asked questions in loud, slow English. Katrin understood perhaps one word in 5. "Nurse," the officer repeated, pointing to Katrin's worn armband. She nodded, unsure if she had answered correctly. By evening, sunlight burned across the barracks. Hunger had been a constant companion. One piece of black bread yesterday had cut her gums. Today, her stomach felt hollow in a way deeper than pain. Formation was called. The interpreter announced in German, 1900 hours, you will eat. Some girls laughed nervously. Eat what? Our boots, surely. Yet at 7 o'clock, they shuffled into the mess hall, curiosity and exhaustion outweighing suspicion. The hall stretched wide, industrial lights buzzing overhead. Long tables lined rows like assembly belts. Katrin's nose twitched at the first aroma, rich, savory, impossible. Her mouth watered uncontrollably. The line crept forward. A black soldier in uniform stood behind the counter. His name tag read, Davon. His eyes were kind, arms like fence posts, and he smiled. Katrin approached, hands shaking, and saw the tray he slid toward her. Meatballs, browned and glistening in a thick herb-laden sauce, a scoop of buttered mashed potatoes, green beans swimming in melted butter, and a roll so soft it seemed impossible. Steam rose, carrying the scent of rosemary and simmered onions. Her knees buckled. The tray clattered, but she didn't care. She sank to the floor, grabbing a meatball. The skin gave with a soft pop. Juices, warm and fragrant, spilled into her mouth. Tears pricked her eyes. "It's warm," she whispered. "It's warm." Overhead, chatter stopped. The soldier nodded, then returned for another piece, offering it as if it were a gift from the heavens. Around her, the other women watched, silent, realizing that the monsters the posters promised were not here. Only men who fed them, carefully, kindly, without cruelty. The first bite of meatball was the beginning of something Katrin hadn't dared hope for. Survival tasting like warmth, not fear. Morning light sliced through the barrack slats like sharp knives. Katrin awoke stiff, muscles complaining from the rough cot, the sun painting her bunk in gold streaks that felt alien after months of gray. Her stomach, bloated from yesterday's meal, pulsed with an unfamiliar heaviness. Hunger had once been a companion, quiet but persistent. Now fullness pressed against her ribs, strange and almost frightening. She sat, tracing the grain of the wooden floor beneath her fingers, absorbing the quiet hum of awakening voices around her. Boxes had appeared overnight. Cardboard crates, stacked neatly beside each footlocker, exuded a scent that made her head spin. Soap, chocolate, toothpaste, paper, small sewing kits with bits of thread. Someone whispered that they came from the Red Cross, though no one knew for sure. Katrin hesitated, then reached for hers. The wrapper crinkled under her fingers, soft and smooth, and she inhaled. Jasmine, floral, sharp, luxury in a world where the concept had been stolen. Across the bunks, some women tore open their boxes, frowning at the folded cloths and strange gifts. One brushed her fingertips over a chocolate bar as if it might bite. "They mock us," someone whispered, voice tight with memories of months gone by. Katrin shook her head. Not mockery, abundance. Hours passed as the women unpacked in silence. Hilda, a mechanic with calloused palms, traced her fingers over a tube of toothpaste as if learning a foreign language. Some girls nibbled chocolate and recoiled, sweetness overwhelming after famine. Katrin held hers close, marveling at the smoothness under her fingertips. She discovered a small booklet of English phrases tucked inside the soap's wrapper and ran her fingers along the letters, tracing them carefully. Every word felt like a small bridge to a world she had forgotten. By midday, the mess hall offered scrambled eggs, golden and glistening in pools of melted butter. Katrin ate slowly, letting each bite anchor her to reality. Across the room, Liesel clutched a green glass bottle labeled Coca-Cola. She paid a nickel, watched the soldier pop the cap, and flinched at the hiss of carbonation. The first gulp sent her stomach rebelling. Brown liquid erupted from her lips in violent arcs, but her eyes gleamed with disbelief and joy. Katrin could only watch, understanding without shame. Survival could taste sweet, fizzy, impossible. Katrin stored her Hershey bar in her footlocker, retrieving it each night to savor the soft chocolate melting under the desert heat. Brigitta's lipstick grew bolder. Liesel hoarded her bottles. Hilda studied the English booklet with fevered devotion. Katrin, content in shadow, observed and absorbed, letting the sensory revelations, the warmth of food, the richness of chocolate, the sound of laughter, redefine the world she had known. 2 weeks later, Boone arrived in his rattling truck, a cowboy with one cloudy eye and a cigarette dangling from his lips. He produced a crate of chocolate ice cream cups, already soft in the sun. Katrin trembled as she took one, the cold against her palm cutting through the heat. The first spoonful, sweet, fruity, impossible, made her pause in awe. Around her, women shrieked, laughed, cried, each bite a quiet rebellion against months of deprivation. Boone squinted at them, voice gravelly. "You just tired, girls." No threat, no command, just tired. And Katrin felt it too, every muscle in her body relaxing into a fragile hope. For the first time since the war had ended, she believed survival could taste not just bearable, but extraordinary. The sun climbed higher, casting sharp shadows across the barracks, and the women began to navigate the new rhythm of abundance. Katrin moved carefully through the bunks, carrying her tray of eggs, feeling the warmth seeping into her fingers. The aroma of butter and lightly seasoned meatballs drifted through the hall, mingling with the faint perfume of soap and chocolate wrappers. Every smell felt amplified, every sound, cutlery clinking, whispered laughter, the hiss of soda, sharper than memory allowed. Across the room, Brigitta sat before a cracked mirror, turning a stick of lipstick in her hand like it was a memory. The color, deep red, caught the desert light and shimmered with something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Slowly, she brushed it onto her lips, her hand trembling. Then she looked at Katrin and smiled, crooked but brave. "Do you remember the color?" she asked quietly. Katrin hesitated. In the camp, everything had been gray. Mud, walls, faces. Now the reds and yellows felt too bright, almost painful to look at. Brigitta laughed, soft and shaky. In that small sound, Katrin realized it wasn't about beauty, it was about being human again. Lunch brought a new challenge, spaghetti, glistening in tomato sauce that bubbled gently in large aluminum pans. Katrin hesitated before serving herself, the scent dizzying. She noticed Liesel twirling her fork with practiced care, humming a tune she didn't recognize. Katrin copied the motion slowly, letting the pasta slide over the prongs, the sauce clinging and dripping onto her plate. The first bite was a shock. acidic, sweet, tangy, and she closed her eyes to focus on the flavor. No one rushed. There were no guards barking orders, no scarcity pressing down. Boone wandered the hall with his crate of ice cream, offering cups in his gravelly voice. "One for each," he said, and the women lined up, hesitant smiles spreading. Katrin accepted hers, the cold bite of chocolate cutting through the lingering heat of the day. She took slow, careful spoonfuls, feeling the sweetness mingle with the richness of buttered eggs. Around her, the women reacted similarly, gasps and squeals punctuating the otherwise calm hall. Katrin realized that for the first time, laughter could exist without fear, that joy could sneak into spaces that had known only deprivation. In the quiet moments, she returned to the English booklet, tracing words with a finger calloused from labor. "Thank you," "Please," "Good morning," simple phrases, yet each a bridge to a world beyond the barbed wire. Hilda sat nearby, whispering sentences aloud, trying to memorize them. Liesl practiced too, pairing phrases with gestures, a small ritual that brightened the long, hot afternoons. By evening, the barracks had transformed. Footlockers held chocolate bars, bottles of soda, bars of soap. Trays bore meals that once would have been unimaginable. Katrin leaned against the wall, watching shadows stretch across the floor. Each small comfort, warmth, flavor, color, scent, sound, was a subtle rebellion, a quiet reclamation of humanity. She understood that survival was no longer just enduring, but noticing, savoring, absorbing, and allowing herself to be shaped by what had once been forbidden luxuries. And in that soft twilight, Katrin smiled, letting the sensation of fullness, warmth, and tiny freedoms fill the hollows left by hunger and fear. For the first time in months, the world felt not only bearable, but alive. The days blurred, each morning bringing new delicacies and small luxuries that the women had only dreamed of. Katrin lingered over her chocolate each night, savoring the soft richness as if it could shield her from memory's cold grip. Outside, the desert air carried the scent of sagebrush and sun-baked earth, a stark contrast to the sterile, suffocating odor of the camp. It was in this juxtaposition, the sweetness of chocolate against the dusty heat, that bonds began to form. Liesl and Katrin sat beneath the shade of a lone mesquite tree, sharing stories of home and imagined futures. The words were cautious at first, testing the waters of trust. Liesl described streets lined with chestnut trees, children laughing in alleys, the aroma of fresh bread wafting from neighborhood bakeries. Katrin countered with fragmented recollections of mountains dusted in snow, of summer gardens where roses bloomed like flames, of a father's quiet chuckle at breakfast. Listening, they realized how fragile memory could be, yet how resilient the human spirit remained. Across the field, the women discovered a rhythm in work and play. They chased rolling soda bottles, laughing as ice cream cups toppled onto the sun-baked soil, their laughter echoing like music in the desert air. Some practiced English phrases aloud, correcting one another gently, their voices soft but sure. The mundane, washing dishes, sweeping floors, became shared ritual, a series of small victories against months of deprivation. Each act, no matter how ordinary, felt like a quiet declaration. We exist. We matter. We are still here. Even Boone, with his gravelly voice and clouded eye, became part of this fragile ecosystem. He taught the women to open crates carefully, to inspect ice cream for cracks, to rotate items so nothing melted too quickly. His presence was a bridge to a world beyond the camp's fences, a reminder that life's cruelty was not universal. Katrin watched him lean on the truck, cigarette smoke curling lazily, feeling a strange gratitude for his rough kindness. Meals became more than sustenance. They were gatherings of intimacy and observation. Katrin noticed how Hilda's hands trembled as she balanced a spoonful of sauce, how Brigitta's laughter bubbled unbidden as chocolate smeared across her lips. Each sensory detail, the scent of herbs in meatballs, the fizz of soda, the sticky sweetness of ice cream, was a punctuation mark in the women's shared narrative, a reminder that life could still surprise. Night fell, bringing a cool breeze that cut through the barracks. Women clustered in small groups, recounting the day, whispering dreams and small confessions. Katrin, lying on her cot, traced letters in the English booklet, absorbing phrases like oxygen. She thought of chocolate, soda, ice cream, laughter, and the resilience stitched into the fabric of her companions. Every shared smile, every gasp at a new taste, every whispered word fortified her, sewing together the fragments of humanity that the camp had tried to strip away. By the time sleep claimed her, Katrin understood something profound. Survival was no longer merely enduring. It was noticing, savoring, sharing, and allowing connection to heal wounds that months of hunger and fear had carved deep into her soul. In the soft darkness, she whispered the English words she had learned. "Thank you, please, good night," letting them drift over the barracks like gentle balm. Mornings began to feel different. Sunlight no longer struck like knives through the barrack slats. It softened, spilling warmth across the bunks and the dusty floor. Katrin lingered by the window, feeling the heat seeping into her bones. Life, once measured in hours of hunger and fear, now measures itself in small victories. A chocolate bar saved for later, the fizz of soda after a long day, a stolen spoonful of ice cream before it melted. Liesl discovered courage in these tiny moments. She began to trade her extra sanitary pads for chocolate, a secret barter that made her laugh quietly in the corner of the mess hall. Katrin watched, a mixture of amusement and awe. Even Brigitte, who had once hoarded lipstick as though it were gold, now offered a touch of color to Liesl's cheeks, an unspoken act of solidarity. Every small act of generosity, each shared morsel, reinforced the invisible threads binding the women together. One afternoon, Boone arrived with crates of fruit, tinned peaches, oranges, and tinned pineapple, already warm from the sun. Katrin's hands trembled as she peeled an orange, the scent sharp and sweet, sticky juice dribbling down her fingers. Around her, laughter erupted as Hilda discovered she could share a slice of tinned peach without anyone noticing. Katrin held her peace, marveling at the audacity of such simple pleasure. Each taste, each sensation, felt like a quiet rebellion against months of deprivation. The women began to experiment with the limited ingredients, creating small, improvised meals. Katrin helped mix herbs into meatballs, the aroma of thyme and parsley lifting her spirits. Liesl stirred the bubbling sauce carefully, counting the seconds until it reached the perfect simmer, listening to the gentle hiss and pop as it cooked. Brigitte sprinkled sugar over fruit slices, a delicate crust forming under the Arizona sun. These minor culinary triumphs transformed the camp's routines into something celebratory. Even the barracks themselves became a canvas for expression. Sheets were hung to create cozy corners. Small bouquets of wildflowers, picked from the edges of the desert, adorned tables, and personal spaces carried trinkets salvaged from months of deprivation. Katrin tucked her chocolate bar in a small box under her cot, tracing its edges every night, while Liesl carefully folded her English booklet, circling phrases that reminded her of freedom. Nightfall carried a quiet magic. The women gathered outside under a sky ablaze with stars, sharing the day's spoils, laughter, and whispered confessions. Katrin clutched her spoon, savoring the final bites of ice cream, listening to the soft murmur of voices that had once been silenced by fear. Every taste, every gesture of care, every shared secret built a fortress of hope. By the time the desert air cooled, Katrin understood that survival had evolved. It was no longer only about enduring, it was about embracing joy wherever it appeared, about seizing fleeting pleasures, about small rebellions against the memory of hunger and cruelty. In these stolen moments, the women reclaimed a piece of themselves, and in the simple act of sharing a taste, a word, a smile, they found freedom, small, fragile, yet infinitely precious. The morning sun arrived like a herald of change, spreading gold across the camp. Katrin lay awake, listening to the distant rumble of engines. Whispers ran through the barracks like electricity. Today was different. The world outside had begun to stir in ways that even the women could feel, a faint promise of freedom. Boone arrived first, rickety truck rattling over the dirt path, his single cloudy eye squinting. In his crate were bread rolls, butter, and a surprising bounty of fresh vegetables. The women moved with cautious excitement, careful not to jostle their fragile sense of normalcy. Katrin inhaled deeply as she held a warm roll in her hands, the scent of baked wheat filling her chest, with a nostalgia she didn't know she still carried. She bit into it slowly, the crust crisp and the interior soft, each chew a declaration that life could still be sweet. News came from the perimeter. Only a few guards remained, their trucks idling near the gate. The camp felt strangely unguarded. A strange sensation settled over the women, relief mixed with disbelief. Liesel clutched a green glass bottle, shaking it gently as though to test if the world was real. The carbonation hissed, popping softly in the desert air. She drank carefully this time, tasting freedom in small, measured sips, a smile breaking across her face. Katrin wandered among the barracks, noting the subtle transformations. Hilda had arranged her English phrases into neat columns, annotating words with tiny drawings. Liesel wore a scarf as a crown, laughing as Brigitte applied a single streak of lipstick to her own lips, and then offered it to others. Even mundane chores, sweeping, cooking, organizing, felt infused with purpose, as if each movement stitched a part of the lost world back together. By midday, Boone brought one final treat, a crate of vanilla ice cream. Katrin held her cup, cold and trembling, spoon poised. The first bite brought a shiver, the sweetness spreading like sunlight across her tongue. Around her, the other women shrieked, laughed, and shared in quiet reverence. Each mouthful was a tiny rebellion against the months of hunger, a reclaiming of bodily pleasure, a statement that they were no longer merely surviving, they were living. When the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert, Katrin sat quietly outside the barracks. The sky glowed with oranges, pinks, and purples, the air carrying the scent of warm earth and distant sagebrush. She traced her fingers along her Hershey bar, now half melted, and breathed in the freedom that had always felt just out of reach. In the silence, Katrin realized that liberation was not only a physical act, but a mosaic of small victories. The taste of chocolate, the hiss of soda, the shared laughter, the aroma of fresh herbs. These moments had rebuilt them, made them whole again. Though the war had ended far away, here in the sun-baked desert, life had returned, not as it was, but as it should be, fragile, bright, and defiantly human.